The subject is what is wrong with our prison system and judicial system. And I'll just say real quick, if I keep turning orange and red, it's this camera. I can't get it. Can't figure it out. It's not gonna. It's a cheap camera. All right. So what's wrong with our prison system? I can tell you from a God, love your neighbor standpoint, biblical standpoint, we are not Rome. We don't need to be patterned after Rome. In some ways, we're patterned after the old Roman system. But now we did come up with, there are good things about our system, and that we proved innocent. We came up with, that's the judicial system. We came up with innocent until proven guilty. We came up with that the punishment fit the crime, which we don't follow very often, right? That's the problem. That's one of our biggest problems. We don't follow that. So, but to be fair, sometimes, most of the time, maybe today, or a lot of times, we don't let, I won't say most of the time, but we don't let the punishment fit the crime, and it's not severe enough. In other words, if it's somebody who's killing people and they get out in 2 days, or if somebody who's battered somebody, they get out in 2 days and they're a constant, there should be, you have to assess. We're so picky about the law and proving stuff. You should assess if they've been a constant threat to somebody. If, let's say you have a woman that's gotten, what do you call it, when they're stalking, they won't quit coming after them, an ex-boyfriend or whatever, and you've gotten a restraining order. We don't take much value in the restraining orders. The police don't and stuff. They don't help protect people like that. They don't have much protective custody, nothing that I know of. So, we don't value that stuff enough. So the punishment fit the crime. If you're doing violent crime, the reason you should be, I won't call it punishment. I don't like the word punishment much. For detainment, that's another thing you can talk about. How much should I be allowed to punish anybody? Because I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But we need to detain people for the safety of the public, right? So, and if it's somebody who killed somebody, they may kill them again. If they're stealing and they won't steal, they're not repentant. You got to decide those things. So, but our prison system partly is messed up there's a lot of stuff about it. It partly is messed up because of the money, bailouts. How much should we value the bailout system? Now, a lot of times people are in there unfairly, so the bailout system is good for that. But has it become a money-making scheme? Should our police be writing tickets for the sake of money? Should they be profit or non-profit agencies? Should all agencies connected be non-profit instead of profit? So you shouldn't turn that into a profit. It should be based on character. And so I'll tell you one of the main things I think is wrong with this system. I won't say it's the main, but it's a big thing, is that when thieves go in, they should pay back people they stole from while they're behind bars. And that helps the thief, believe it or not. That helps the thief and the people outside. It gives them exoneration. It gives them redemption. It gives them a clean slate, pretty much. Of course, they may have robbed 20 other people, so they're still having to run for their lives when they get out, or continue being violent to scare people off who might contest them. But sometimes they're with their violent groups, and people don't contest getting their stuff back because they can get killed trying to ask for payback. On the other hand, they may want to kill them. But sometimes a lot of thieves have their own network group, and they're really mean people and threaten people all the time because they have to protect themselves, because they pick and choose. They take a gamble on who they steal from sometimes, because a lot of people will just take revenge right away and they're in trouble. And so they gamble and steal from more vulnerable people, or more people who are going to give them a chance, be baffled by the fact that somebody actually did something that crazy and stole. As much as we know, educational wise today, as much as we know the luxury of what it's like not to have to worry about being robbed, that still happens. And different parts of society, particularly more than others. So, it starts with the fact that we don't talk about it. That's why I'm making this video, and I'll make a disclaimer as far as facts. I should have done it at the beginning. I may start making disclaimers that, I'm presenting ideas mostly and subject matter that we don't discuss, that we should discuss. And, I'm not claiming to have every fact perfect, but you'll know, I'm going to talk about obvious stuff mostly that is obvious. And if I know, I know that there's an off balance, I'm not going to claim a specific percentage or number unless I know it, right? So, but double check. That shouldn't disqualify me, because what I'm not talking about. I'm talking about facts and what's going on in reality and all that. But I'm not talking about statistics specifically. I'm not the statistics researcher. You need people like me who have ideas and all that, and want a better world, and want a more safe world and more neighborly world, and all that. And that's what I'm pointing out. And we don't even use that language, neighborly, which is biblical, and it's a wise word. Even being neighborly is even better than being friendly. So being neighborly covers a lot more stuff if you think about it. It's being neighborly is teaching people not to steal. It's not stealing. It's not just teaching people, but it is not stealing yourself, not taking revenge, but forgiving and assessing. It's being a adjudicator. It's being judicious. It's being a diplomat. It's a lot of things. I mean, so being friendly can be fake. Being neighborly covers being accountable and everything, right? So, without delving into that too deep, so our judicial system is messed up by the lawyers a lot. And we like lawyers, and lawyers are good, and they help people, and they actually make the case for people, and they help win cases and get the evidence and make proof a lot of times. But what's happened, I'm not going to blame the lawyers specifically, but what's happened is we've drawn out cases, and we should not take so long to clear a case, unless it's unpredictable. I mean, how do they draw it out and not figure it out? If you really study, and there's so many people that lie today, it's hard because they're lying. I mean, it is clear as day when you talk bad about police, and you show them on the camera. I don't care if it's white or black or whatever, but in recent times, mostly what's made the national news is a black person attacks the police. They never talk about that. The police fights back. The black person gets hurt. And it's a person who is a bully in the neighborhood. It's a person who robbed the stores down the street, who regularly does these things, hurts people. And then everybody's acting like that person's a victim. And then, and so, I forget why I brought that point up, but I'm coming to it. But you have, the police are not the problem as far as the prisons go. Maybe some of the police are in the prison, but the police are not the problem as far as why people don't like to encounter police. The problem is because the punishment hasn't been fitting the crime a lot of times. That's the one reason people don't like the police, but they're picking on the wrong person. They need to do what I'm doing and talk about our laws, talk about how the judicial system's messed up and all those kind of things. And so I'm just going to I forget what the point was I had about, but we mistreat police. We shouldn't mistreat police. We should respect police and understand they have a hard job, but they do a lot of good things. They help people at car wrecks. They help people, when people get shot. They do help break up fights, deter fighting a lot of times for anybody that has any respect for the police and law. They remind people we don't want to have to go to jail. And sometimes people don't kill each other because they don't want to go to jail. And so police uniform reminds them of that. And so we should define our police better and we should not reject God in society. We should understand that the only way we know how to get along even a little bit is because of what the Bible taught about God. And it's not these other these copycat religions where love your neighbor comes from. It comes from the Bible. And there's no older religion than starting with Adam and Eve. Okay? There is none. It's all a lie when they say those things. They lie about tens of millions of years ago. It didn't exist. The flood proves that. The flood and all the evidence of the flood that they ignore proves those things. And so it validates biblical history. It validates we all came from the same family. I mean, we're all cousins. Doesn't matter what color somebody is. We all cousins, right? So, and there is an easy science to explain color, and it has to do with living near the equator for many years. People darken their sun. We darken in the summertime. White, light skinned people do darken in the summertime because we get more vitamin D, and it helps protect your skin from the sun, from sun rays. And so you have a lot of problems with the prison system. And I'm not going in order here, but I'm going to another point for you. So we'll just touch on them. I may do more videos on this part 2 or whatever. But you have the fact that we don't allow true religion to be talked about as like much as we should in religion. We have Islam contesting Christianity. And Islam is an antichrist religion. Mormonism is an antichrist religion. Jehovah's Witnesses are an antichrist religion. They're tricky. Those ones are tricky. Whereas Islam's more obvious. It's clearly an antichrist religion. Buddhism is an antichrist religion. Hinduism is an antichrist religion. Atheism is an antichrist belief. But it's funny because sometimes you find atheists who are logical in their thinking. They don't hate the Christian views because it tells people not to steal from them. And so there's a lot of people that they're like, okay, we'll accept this because it tells people they're not supposed to steal from me. They're supposed to forgive me and have mercy on me and not come beat me up. So some people say, there's some cultures we have in America that are into violence. They're into violence, and then they'll call people racist if they're scared of getting punched in the face. Maybe they just don't like being punched in the face, And so that's certain cultures within maybe the drug culture, the gang cultures. And so that's a big, it's weird how, the Obamas in office, Michelle Obama would act like people are racist if they're a little afraid of gangsters. Basically, she acts like gangsters don't exist. And it's a really big thing in a lot of parts of towns, almost every town in the country. Pretty much every town, just about every town. Not every. I guess there are some that's not there that bad. Small towns, certain ones. But even some small towns are worse than the big towns because they're spill-off towns for the big towns, for the drug cartels and stuff. So how does that tie in to our prison system? That goes above it. It starts with bad laws. They've empowered drug cartels and gangs. As far as drug dealing gangs, they have empowered that by the rules they have, the medicine laws we have. And they have not allowed scientists to study real medicinal plants and make safe medicinal forms, medicinal plants to put in doctors' hands. And do we trust doctors? Not much, I don't. So I think you do, if, at least for the plants, you put it in licensed dealers' hands. Not like necessarily a liquor store, but something like that, right? An adult store, licensed in the plant form. And so do you allow any concentrated forms? I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure, but I would start off by saying it should be licensed for scientists to make concentrated forms of those medicinal plants to put in doctors' hands. And you have safer drugs. They're regulated for poison, regulated for consistency. So people aren't being tricked and taking 1,000 milligrams when they thought they were only getting a 10 milligram. Right? That's what happens, and that's the problem here. So they act like it's a promotion. It's not a promotion to use more. It's a promotion to have it out of people's face and tempting them less, and then it teaches people to be sane when they're doing stuff and be careful. So when you have it in the form we have it now, they're at a point of insanity where they're risking going to jail, rushing, racing, taking the fastest thing they can get because they're scared to get caught, all that kind of stuff going on. And the dealers too, they didn't always get into it for the worst reasons, for hating reasons and all that. But they do realize the violence is out there once they're in it. And sometimes they're stuck in it. So there's all this psychology that happens. So, but what laws do we have? So the prison system's kind of messed up with having minor infractions for drugs when we're not educated about it. We're not even allowed to talk about it because they're scared that's a promotion. We don't want it on people's mind. And it is true that people, when they're addicted, they can be at a point in time where just hearing the subject might make them relapse, right? That can happen, but they got to learn how to deal with that on their own. We got to have a better system. You got this better system, then if they do relapse, then they're not killing themselves. If they're not getting poisoned, all right, and they're not getting rushed, they're not getting stolen everything, robbed of everything they have, and then you don't have a prison and justice system that steals their house from them because they got caught drinking coffee after we made it illegal. So that's the thing. That's crazy. So we'll touch on that, but there's a lot of people in prison for the minor infractions, as related to in a system where we have been lied to and demonized certain medicines that could have safe forms, whereas the strongest form of them is not safe, but a very small, a very weak form, low potency, like you have 2% alcohol, you have 100% alcohol. The 2% is not as dangerous, right? So some people still get mad and they support these bad laws by saying, yeah, but people have still gotten drunk on 2% and all this, and then they go wreck a car. Well, let's start picking on those people once we get the production laws to where they're safer. Instead of letting killers and thieves deal the stuff, let's put it in the hands of a more responsible way of doing it, and then you can blame the addicts more, and then you can have real rehabs and all those kind of things instead of stealing their property. And then you can actually see whose fault it really is, because a lot of times those kind of addicts and all, they are truly, if they get involved in that, they're around people who maybe poison their drink, even, or poison their medicine, and it put something in it that blacks them out. And it's, they took the risk, yes, but it's even more of the fault of the producers of that when that comes to it. And then it's really that's the fault of the government for not having safe venues to do that, and knowing they're reaping they're killing people. The government knows the system that's in place is killing way more people than it would the other way. So my way would actually kill way less people. It wouldn't put it in kids' faces. It'd take it away from their faces, and it would hold the people responsible that put it in their faces after that time. Stuff like that. They would do that a lot better. And now it's rampant. It's rampant right now. But when you have all those innocent people, not innocent, but minor infraction kind of people in prison, mixed in with the killers, mixed in with the serial killers, and anybody can be a killer and can lose their temper and kill, right? That can happen in a fight or whatever. But we're taught in this system. What I'm proposing is we teach people to mostly instead of talk about drugs all the time. Let's talk about not killing people. Let's talk about don't doing violence. Let's discuss the fact that boxing and MMA doesn't make a ton of sense. Because people in the street interpret that, they go out. You just walked out of the dentist's office and they're ready to fight and knock your teeth out. So that doesn't make any sense. And so we have cultures that are into that, and they think you got to man up and fight. And we've even have police that will say, "Why don't you man up and fight and handle business yourself?" Shouldn't have to. You should be able to talk stuff out and walk away. And so, but that's supposed to be learned in the prison system too. That's part of the problem with the prison system. We should have Bibles in the prisons. New Testaments, even more than Bibles, because they're easier to understand. They teach you the basic principles of how to live and get along with your neighbors and all that more directly. Proverbs does. The Old Testament, it can be available, but they should have that, and they should have trade schools in there. They should have jobs in there. They should have detainment. They should have redemption talk and more reassessing of each person's case. If they pay off somebody, a thief, they might, if they weren't doing an armed robbery or something, or they're not deemed a violent thief. A lot of the thieves are violent. They're ready to fight if somebody defends what they want. But a lot of them are just going to try to sneak and steal something, and if somebody catches them, they run away. So you got thieves. Some of them do it for worse reasons than others. Some of them do it when they're starving to death, and that's a little more. People can forgive that easier than they forgive somebody who's just doing it out of hate, spite, because they don't care and they're just being lazy and want to get what they want, and they just have no respect for anybody. Those kind of things. So you do have, but once somebody pays back what they owe, in a lot of cases you can let them go. Why have a 2-year sentence, 3-year sentence? They paid back the people. But on the other hand, you want to make sure they're repentant and not going out and still believing that's okay to do it. And maybe they learned that lesson by going in. So it's a natural punishment, but it's not me saying how much they should be punished. When we do the time, sometimes we're saying how much they should be punished, and we're not basing it off of their behavior. They need to behave well and show. Now it's hard to show that, and that can get tricky, and one person can grade it different than another and all that stuff. So time, if I had more time to think on this part right here, sometimes a time limit or a time extension tells you more than just a straight up assessment. because sometimes you need that extra time. But while they're in jail, why do they have to be? Why does all their freedom have to be taken? Why can't they be making some money and showing they're productive from behind the bars, behind the table, whether it's a door or a bar? And the point of the bar is to keep people safe from being robbed. It's to keep them detained because they lost their privilege of showing they can be free without hurting people, right? So that's the main laws we should have in place. It should be based on the Ten Commandments. Love God, well, respect God, at least for people who don't believe in him. So that's the first commandment. But as far as enforcement goes, God gave us those laws for governing. And a lot of churches want to ignore that or act like it's just for Christians. It's not just for Christians. He gave it to mankind. In general, he did give it to specific people who love him and support him. But he also gave it to mankind to show that there's no better law of governing. I mean, it's obvious. There's no better law of governing for yourself and the nation with those laws. And he was smart enough. I mean, he was not to put thou shalt not drink or take medicine as part of those laws. That's not in those laws because those are things you have to be responsible for yourself. But in a system like today, with as many people as we have today, that we need to hold the producers responsible. And so you need to have a license to deal. But under the current circumstance, they've made so many things illegal that shouldn't be illegal that there's no way of getting a license. And you do have people, it's grown, we'll put it like that. But I don't know how to qualify all of it because anybody can say, well, they shouldn't do it. Who cares? They shouldn't do it. Who cares how bad the law is? They shouldn't do it. They'll not admit the law is bad. But the law is messed up because we're not allowed to have science, advanced science in medicine. We're not allowed to understand psychology and how medicine does help sometimes in psychology. We're not allowed to understand medicine came from God and it's not of the devil. So our prison system is really messed up based on that. That's why that subject always comes up for me. And some people say that's all he cares about. No, it isn't. It's the common denominator that screwed up our prison system, made people not like the police more than just the average thief that hates the police, right? So it's made people be uncomfortable with police. It's the same thing that's messed up our hospitals. It's the same things that's messed up teaching people how to rehab properly, teaching people nutrition and health. It's skewed. Our rehabs are messed up. They're not honest. They say once an addict, always an addict. They call it a disease. They're doing everything else to get around jail. I don't know, because our jail laws on that issue are not proper. So I'm not going to say they're all improper. Somebody gets caught misbehaving when they're not sober, or hurting somebody when they're not sober, and they're not even going to hurt them when they are sober. I mean, everybody's different. Not everybody hurts somebody when they're not sober, but but some people who wouldn't normally hurt somebody might do it when they're not sober. And I'm not talking about a car accident. I'm talking about with their temper. But it can throw you off your sexuality. You can throw off your hormones, different things and all that. So in your mind, can make you obsessive. You can obsess with being jealous. You can obsess with sexual desires. You can obsess with different things. With different medicines can throw your mind off that way. And the medicine, though, is sometimes good, though, is an escape from stress. So that's where medicine qualifies. How addictive is it? Do people really know how to get past addiction? So the people say, well, how dare you promote it because the people get addicted too easy. Well, they do get easily addicted. And some people say, well, everybody can't not get addicted like you. They can't handle it like you. And so I've had medicines and not got addicted, right? So, and medicines we're not supposed to have. I've tried them all and I didn't get addicted, but I have had problems with wanting to go back when I've and do them when I'm stressed out, but I never, I did it and did my escape and didn't want to do it again. I don't want to touch it for a long time or something. Any medicine, that's including caffeine. I've had that happen with stuff we're not supposed to use, but that should be legal though. Some of the stuff should be legal, and I've done it with caffeine, and I felt the same way on both of them. I don't want to do it again. I don't like the side effects. And for some of them, I don't like the way that it takes my mind to where it's not uh, in the spirit. You know, be not drunk with wine wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit. So I don't like being where I don't feel in tune with the Spirit for very long. But I can't deny that when I've done medicines, they have helped me get over a depression time or a negative time. So they've done that for me at times, but not too, and sometimes too much of an extreme where I wanted to change myself and my whole personality and throw my other life, my throw my good life away. That's too much of an escape, right? But that wouldn't happen so much. It can even with caffeine, I guess. As far as just me not liking music when I'm on caffeine, stuff like that. But it can do that to let's see, I forgot. But the point is, it can do that to an extreme, and but then if you believe in God, you're not going to want to stay in that mode. You're like, get away from this. And but so even if but if stuff were legalized, it wouldn't happen to those extremes. I mean, you could abuse it. But if they were legalized in a safe form, low standard form, you might not even choose certain things that you can get quick in the street. For instance, you may say, no, that's not. I don't have a drug of choice. I'm still trying to figure out which one works best for me when I have insomnia, for instance. So which one works best, not to my detriment, not to take me away from God, but it helps me just kind of recover. And then I don't want to go into the fact that Christians will challenge that you shouldn't do that. I agree that you should do that. That's a last resort. I'm not going to agree that it's an ungodly resort. He doesn't disqualify medicinal use. He does not disqualify drinking the way people interpret the Bible. He does say if you have a problem with it, to stay away from it. He does say don't do it in front of people. It is best if you want to be an evangelist to stay off it, which that's my goal, to stay off of all the stuff. So, but we've made prison laws based on all this stuff, and these are really stuff that should it be a criminal thing? No, it shouldn't be criminal in general. Whether people choose to medicate themselves, but we need the safe venues. I don't think it should be criminal. No, I'm not. I mean, I could think more about it, but my initial statement is, I think that's the problem, right? Part of the problem, to make it criminal to use a medicine and choose to use. It's like making coffee criminal. And I think it is criminal, the fact that we mislead people into thinking coffee's healthy. That's criminal. That's criminal. And a lot of people fall for it and they believe it. And doctors do it and they qualify it. And now even some of the stuff that I know is wrong with coffee, and I've studied it back in the past, when you go on the Google it and stuff, they've taken that data off. They won't talk about it anymore. But I have found a few here and there that do. But nowadays they've taken it off. They don't tell you it's not good because it dehydrates you. Then it's not just the caffeine, it's the diuretic and laxative effect of coffee. It's not a fiber laxative effect. It's a type of laxative effect, like a medicinal laxative that puts water in your system, causes you to flush your bowels, dehydrates your bowels, and you shouldn't do that every day to your bowels because you ruin the bacteria in your gut, the healthy bacteria, the probiotics in your gut that are created through fiber and everything else. It sets you back, So there's a lot wrong with coffee, right? But it's not bad to use as a medicine now and then, which I don't know if I'll ever do it again now that I've learned carob powder. I'm sorry I got stuck on this subject this long. But I'm qualifying. I mean, it's complicated, but that's ruined our prison system. That's a common denominator. It's ruined a lot of things, right? It's ruined a lot of things. It is a common denominator. So I'm not going to apologize for bringing it up. I hope I get better at helping people understand it's a common denominator, And so, but definitely it's good to teach. It's best to teach the abstinence as much as possible. It's not a sin though. It's not a sin to use it as a medicine. But mostly you want to stay abstinent. And if you use a medicine, you want to come right back off it and practice abstinence. Use a medicine when it's needed, not when a drug dealer wants money or a doctor wants money. You use medicine when you need it. And then you get off it. Try to stay off it, and you realize, okay, maybe I didn't need it so bad if I learned how to think this way. Learn how to pray during that time instead of uh, depending on the medicine. Learn how to rest and sleep instead of using a medicine to keep me going, to please all these people and to prove I'm a good worker. So why do I got to take caffeine to prove that? Because really, in the end, once I do those 5 jobs in a row that caffeine helped me do or something else helped me do, then I still crash in the end. I crash and my recovery is even slower. And for 5 days, I'm slow and sluggish, have a headache and can't think clear. I'm trying to mask it maybe by taking more caffeine and or whatever it is. You're not getting as much work done those following 5 or 10 days as you would have had you not done the thing. But you did make your show that you needed to make for those 4 or 5 jobs you did in a row while you're on it. So the thing is, so it's better to stay off it, and if you can beat it altogether, it's better not to do caffeine. I won't say it's better not to do aspirin for something preventing heart attack and stuff. You still take a little aspirin. So different medicines do different things. That's true too. But they still have medicinal value. So why do we make criminal laws so much? And that's the capacity when the law should be check for poisons. Be regulated for poisons. Have licensed dealers. Be regulated for extortion. So you're not running a business where they're raping people or robbing people. Consistency. So they're not swindling people. You got So you're not isolating people, and then having swindlers deal inconsistent drugs so they can black somebody out and rob them or whatever, cause them to do something stupid. So they can get all their stuff and make them go look stupid and get themselves thrown in jail or killed. And because you gave them something that was too strong. That's a swindle. But you got quick money and you don't care if they die, go to jail or what, but you swindle them by giving them something too strong. So that's a real crime too, by the way. So that's hurting your neighbors. So, but under the current laws, how do they get somebody for a crime like that? They don't really have a way of doing that because they're calling the addict just as guilty as the dealers who did that to him. The dealing groups, even the addict dealers that did that to him and keep the real dope, and they deal to somebody that's not part of their gang or whatever and cheat them. And so, they do all that kind of stuff. So, but those are prison worthy stuff. Really, if you could prove it, those are hard to prove. But if you have the right laws, that doesn't happen. So let's go to the court system. The court, because I can't believe it's 32 minutes already. But the court system, you have a lot of issues. They delay the court cases. They've gotten rid of the death penalty. They argue getting rid of the death penalty. We should have the death penalty on the table. And that jams up our prisons. It keeps a lot of unrepentant killers in prison. It keeps people going to prison who are like, I get to live in prison instead of be put to death if I kill somebody, And so those are the types that need to be put to death. So there's some, you don't always put, the point is with the death penalty, you don't always carry it out. The people who vote against death penalty are actually the people who have gangs and mobs and they plan on killing people. That's who votes against the death penalty in the Democrat Party. And they kill babies, and they kill people more than anybody. They start fights. They lie about the police. They lie about people. They get people killed. They're all into killing. They don't respect God. They don't respect their neighbors. And, I thought of some other points on that subject today that I can't remember. I'll write it down sometime. But you have... So that system is messed up. When you get they play the money system. So that's the point I wanted to make is Democrats don't like our American system, and they lie about who cheated in the elections. Republicans aren't prone to cheat in elections. They're prone to look back and say, look at how good our system is. It lets us vote and choose who's going to be president. So the people who hate that system are the ones that are prone to cheat on it to help overthrow it. That's the Democrats. They don't like the system. They want the people in power want to lie and do everything they can to get the person in power they want in power. And that's from the head down because they get to do whatever they want. They want to get rid of America. And they're doing it right now. They're letting China buy our land, farming land and stuff. They're doing all that. They're doing all kinds of things, right? But they're letting, they're letting Islam in to take over Christianity. They call Christians Islamophobes, but they won't call Islamic people Christianophobes. So, but Christianity is the only religion that's proven to have a God with the power of the second life. It's the only proven true religion. But they won't. We can't have that discussion. Generally, I'm working on getting that. That should be. That's what we came here for, to have those types of discussions. That's how this country was created, to be able to have those kind of discussions. The freedom of religion, the freedom of speech. It was particularly so we can discuss what's real. Is God real? What's really real about God? Well, it's evident that He wants us to love our neighbors. That's right. So that's taught in the Bible. To quickly summarize this and come down with some points you hadn't heard yet. Our prison system should be based on that. It shouldn't be separate. All of a sudden you go to prison and you get rid of the love your neighbor laws in the prison. No, it should be the same laws. Love your neighbors, love your enemies, but treat everybody like your neighbor, and expect them to follow God's word and 10 commandments. And so I got off the point that, some people don't believe in God, but those are obvious natural laws to where we need to respect each other. And even people that don't believe God, they understand that it's not right to be racist. They understand that. Today a lot of groups lie about who's racist, right? So one of the 10 commandments is don't lie against your neighbor. Don't bear false witness against your neighbor. And that's how our government's being stolen away, because we haven't, that's a hard law because the people that lie, they'll turn around and say that the other side lied about this or that, and they're lying by saying that. Then they make it hard to figure out, and then it's hard to just chase that down. But if we concentrate on it, and we value that much higher, they can't get by with it so easily. And then what's even makes it easier is if you define racism properly, which is you don't believe in God of the Bible, then you're racist. I mean, that's a simplification of it. But if you don't believe in one human race from God, Adam and Eve, and from Noah's family after the flood, that's real racism. We're equally human. All ethnicities are equally human. And that includes the judges are equally human as the criminals. And so judges are not always right. We have a lot of good judges, though. It's a hard job. It's hard to know to make those decisions. But you got some bad judges today, especially today, I guess, and especially during maybe on the Democrat side, back when they freed slavery, ended slavery. You got some corrupt Democrats trying to get places in a judge seat, but who would vote them in? You couldn't have too many, because there's not too many people that would vote them in or whatever, or I don't know how they get appointed exactly, but I'd have to think of it. But you have, so we got a problem though with sentencing taking too long. It shouldn't take that long. You should be probably in jail the whole time, and let it count towards your time, whatever your time is while you're in court, especially if it's a killing. Why do you let them right back out of jail until they go to court? They should be in jail probably. I mean, that sounds harsh, but they should be in jail the whole time the court case is going on, and that should count, but in their favor. That should count towards of course, if they're innocent until proven guilty, I guess I could see why they can get out. But if it's pretty obvious, and it's almost obvious that they're guilty, I mean, it's too dangerous to let them out. Now, if you're not sure, I don't know. That is a tough call. All right, that's a tough call, because you're innocent until proven guilty. But so there's stuff like that happens that complicates it. But prison should be. Benjamin Franklin said we want to make people uncomfortable in prison so they won't want to go there. That's a wrong philosophy. That philosophy has turned flat and turned sour and made it worse. No, you should make it, for instance, they shouldn't have rapes going on in prison. They shouldn't have fighting and threats going on in prison. That should be the goal. I know it's hard to stop some of that, but if you have that goal and don't think it's acceptable, don't think it's cool to fight, you're supposed to be in there rehabilitating and come out better than you were before you went in, right? Not worse. So you should try to have private showers. You should have those luxuries. I know people say, well, then people will want to go there. That's baloney. Who cares if a few crazy people want to go in there and be locked down and not be in the normal public? Who cares if they want to go? If they do, they still have a time limit. What are they going for? What are they going to try to do to go in there for? Well, they need a time limit, then, unless they killed somebody. If they killed somebody and they just want to be there, then the death penalty's on the table. Their behavior should be assessed. So, I mean, you should make prisons to where people have a learning atmosphere, no distractions from thinking ethically. You got to let them have a peaceful, ethical mind in there. Prison should be set up to be comfortable in that sense. Not it's already uncomfortable because they're detained. They've lost their other freedoms. They don't get to cook every day what they want to eat necessarily. I don't know. Maybe that can be arranged a little more. Who knows? That varies. Some places maybe, but usually you got to have a cafeteria to cook for you and stuff. So you got they should have good restroom facilities. That'd take a lot of rebuilding to do that kind of stuff, but you should understand the philosophy and try to make safety measures within the prisons we have to accommodate that kind of stuff. Have a Bible, have trade school options, have ways they can work. It shouldn't be a slave wage. It might be less. It depends on what jobs are. You still have to go by job availability, but there are ways to work from inside the prison and make decent money to pay back who you robbed, take care of family, take care of debts, have them pay off their debts while they're in there, do all that kind of stuff. So, but they're detained mainly for the safety of the public, and that's the point. That's the point. It's not because I'm better than they are. You're better than they are. I could end up being one of those people still, because any kind of weird situation could happen. Even though I've never hurt anybody before. I'm 51. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. Right? I'm going to say I'll do everything within my power to make peace. But I could somehow get pulled into something. It could be self-defense, and I take chances and run or try to make peace that puts myself in danger, but sometimes calms the situation. But there might be a situation where I end up fighting back and it gets me in trouble, right? And we're both in trouble and nobody can prove who started it. Stuff can happen. I mean, so, there could be a point in time where I get dementia or something and I do something crazy. It could happen to anybody, right? So then some people, at least I've seen people with that, and that some people stay happy and jovial if they're absent-minded. But some the stuff's happened. I'm sure there's plenty of stories probably where somebody with dementia thought somebody was a thief and protected themselves, or whatever, and it wasn't a thief. It might have been somebody they knew quite well. So how do you judge that? They're out of their head. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know that wasn't some thief breaking into their house. How do you judge something like that, for instance? But so you have to assess the time frame or do you want to? That's not a regular killing. That's mental illness in a sense. That's a clear mental illness where you're like, there's no motive or premeditation. So if somebody dies in that case, but. So there's a lot more. There's definitely going to have to be a part 2 to this. I don't want the video to go too long. And I'm going to do a part 2 instead of try to close out a whole bunch of points. I might bring up something real quick and close out. So you have as times people are in there. Thing I've brought up. I'll review it. And then you have, they should definitely add that thieves should pay people back. They should pay insurance companies back for cars that were stolen. Full coverage that were replaced. They should pay the insurance companies back if they're not. And while the person they robbed knows that the thief is paying back the insurance company. So that's part of our insurance corruption, and it's taken down our corruption system. And Democrats have been glad to hurt and promote gangs that steal cars. And because they know insurance, it buries insurance, and it allows people to think that government's better than insurance. And insurance, it was a good idea. I mean, it was a good idea. But look how much they jacked up the prices. That should be a crime. That scientists have jacked up medicine prices because they know insurance can cover it. And so if you got rid of insurance, nobody could ever afford a lot of the medicine that keeps people alive. And so it's ridiculous. The prices they charge are ridiculous. I mean, it's inhumane. It's not even in the realm of human financing. budget capability, the way they charge for medicines. So, and that's a crime, really. That's a crime. So that's a true crime against your neighbors, right? So and that's not even looked at like that. Now, it is by some. Trump did address that, trying to get medicine prices down. That starts with the scientists. So, and then why can they jack it up that much? Because the same scientists are the ones demonizing and keeping drugs illegal, convincing legislators that they should be illegal. That's a crime. That's a technical crime against your neighbors, a real crime. Anything against your neighbors, such as stealing through trickery and stuff like that, that's a true crime. Whereas me deciding to drink a beer, I'm not going to drink a beer, but not anymore. And I never was a beer drinker, but I'm not. I'm just saying. But if I decide to drink a beer, that's not a crime. That's not a crime against my neighbors. Now, if it causes me to act up against my neighbors and do a crime, I definitely shouldn't be drinking it. But then I need to know that. You need to realize if it causes you to do that, you switch to another medicine or get clean, go to rehab. That's so. But if we fix the system, we'd put people in rehab, and it shouldn't be rehabs that make people lose their jobs. It should be a weekend class. So I mean, there's a lot wrong with our judicial system, and rehabs have a lot to do with it and stuff. They should have better rehabs, and rehab shouldn't be a prison because prison crazy. It's a control freak, crazy society in a way. So I'm going to cut it out here just for the time's sake. And God bless and rise with 1 John 4:8. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. And I didn't expect to get caught on the one common denominator so long on this, but I may do a part 2. We'll see.